This is LBC with Ian Payne. Call 0345 6060 973. Tweet at LBC. Text 84850.
Talking about what's being called the Great Cladding Scandal. If you haven't heard about this, you probably don't live in a flat that's affected. I do. I will put my hand up and say I have a vested interest in this argument. So basically what's happened is, post-Grenfell, a lot of house builders, a lot of property owners, a lot of management companies have been told you need to change the materials on your flats because they're no longer, well, they're illegal, basically. You've got to change them. So they've gone ahead and changed them. They certainly didn't consult with the leaseholders because they didn't feel they had to. But now we are being told that we have to pay for all these repairs. Some people are having bills of up to £40,000 or £50,000. Some people have already gone bankrupt as a result. So who should pay? If you heard from our solicitor earlier, he was saying it's actually the government who should pay for this because they were the one who, after that fire in South London about 5 or 6 years before, the Lackless estate, was it? I think. Who I've got that wrong, but anyway, and 6 people died in that fire, and the coroner told the government that they need to change the regulations, and at least 2 Secretary of States didn't. So, is that provable in court? I don't know. Who does pay? And tomorrow, Sir Keir Starmer is speaking at a Labour motion to debate this, to talk about who actually should foot the bill. As I say, I can't believe they'll get anywhere near resolving it tomorrow, but it's a start. So I'm asking, God, look at loads of people again want to talk about this. Who should pay? Let's go. Natasha's in Southampton. Hello, are you affected by this?
Hi, Ian. Yes, I'm an affected leaseholder in a building in Southampton.
How much is your bill?
We haven't had our bill yet, but our building is almost entirely cladded. So I think it's going to be sort of the higher end of what we...
So you haven't had the repairs yet?
No,
Bad
not
luck.
yet.
We're in the middle of it. 19 months. God.
Yeah, still stuck in it. We had after a year, we had our letter in February last year, so it's almost a year since we were told about it. Still stuck here, no progress from government. So, all we've heard is this suggestion.
So if you wanted to sell your property, you wouldn't be able to, would you? Because the mortgage lender or the person would say, well, we're not going to invest in this flat, you can't sell it.
No, and the property is worth 0 at the moment. So I'm also a shared ownership leaseholder, which means I only own 35% of it. But I could be liable for 100% of the cost. Because of the terms of my lease. So,
oh my God.
Which is way over, the bill is going to be way over any equity that I have, even probably any mortgage that I have.
How much did you pay for the property, if you don't mind telling us?
It was $125,000 in 2016. Obviously, I paid...
And it's worthless, you can't sell it?
No, can't sell it. Absolutely worthless. And it's a 1-bedroom flat. So until this is sorted, we're stuck here.
I was told that according to the government figures, November this year, half the number of new build flats were bought and sold compared to the year before. It may have something to do with COVID, but I don't think so, because elsewhere the property market is actually increasing. Yeah, but in new build flats, it was half what it was in November 2019.
I'm not surprised at all. Yeah, absolutely. And, we need the house market to continue because,
well, if you can't get on the first rung of the ladder for your first flat in a new build and have help to buy and all the things they encourage you to do, the property market, and anyone who works in the property market will say this, I'm sure, it dies. If you take the first rung of the ladder away, the ladder collapses.
Exactly, and we were ready, set last year to move on to our next. Yeah. I wanted to move out and
if you want to start a family and you want to expand or whatever, exactly. You can't.
And you can't. We're completely stuck. It's. But I have to say, this motion tomorrow has brought a bit of hope for all of us.
It's a sliver in a shaft in a trickle of light, isn't it? Maybe
yes,
tiny,
really
weeny, a pipetful. Thank you very much indeed, Natasha. Let us go to Peter, who is in High Barnet, north of London. Hello, Peter.
Hello, Ian. Right, I'll tell you where I'm coming from. I'm a retired architect. I've spent about half my career working on public housing. Mm-hmm. I have to say, not a very tall tower block. But I've done refurbishment work on...
No, that's good. You've got some intel. We like that.
Well, I'm surprised that more architects haven't been involved in this.
Really?
I remember driving back from a gig. I play jazz these days. When the pandemic's over. Going past Grenfell, about 2 miles away on the North Circular. When I got back home, I saw what was unfolding. I was devastated. Yeah. About 3 days later, I rang one of your colleagues, Darren Adam, because it was being discussed late at night, as that's when he comes on.
He does.
And I followed a Scotsman who felt the same way as me. And I'm surprised that I've been kind of, my life's been very busy, but I've been waiting for things to turn out right. They haven't. Can I tell you where I think it all starts?
Yes.
It starts with the Tory government, which came in, was it the end of the 70s, Margaret Thatcher?
79.
So 79, yeah, I thought it was. Well, I remember where I was at the time, working for a North London
architect,
London Borough Architects Department.
Yeah.
And we had quite a lot of work, and what happened then was that we started getting half-inch thick sheets from central government telling us how they were going to privatise local authorities. Mm-hmm. I don't think the public ever knew that. Well, they wouldn't. This must have been sent round to every borough in the country, and the mind boggles.
Forgive me, Peter. I need to just fast forward a little bit because I've got a lot of people want to talk about this. So, what is your conclusion? What did they do wrong?
What happened in those days was that in this civic centre I was in, the building control officer would check your drawings. If you were an outside architect, you would come in and have a meeting. I went down and had a meeting with him, and he would go through with almost a fine-tooth comb, and then he'd say, I'm meeting the fire officer, the borough fire officer, on Thursday or whatever, and we'll go through all the drawings, and I'll let you know. And he'd ring up and say, well, everything you did was all right, distances from flat doors to staircases and all that kind of thing to do with fire.
Right. So who should pay, do you think, in your opinion? Sorry to rush you along, but who should pay?
Who should pay? Well, you were talking to your solicitor about the government, and then you said, what, the taxpayer? Well, I'm livid about this. I think the Tory party ought to pay for it. They've got enough funds. They've been funded constantly by
I am sure, and again, I'm sorry to cut you off, Peter, but I've got so many people who want to talk about this. I am sure that they will say, well, by the Tory party, they mean the government, i.e. us. I don't think Conservative Central Office will accede, although you may feel that they should. I was just interested to hear from the solicitor earlier who basically said, successive housing ministers like Eric Pickles did not follow the advice, because it was too expensive, obviously, to change various regulations after that fire in South London when 6 people died, and successive ministers didn't. So I don't know if that is an argument that you can use in a court of law. I have no idea. If you're a barrister, if you're a property expert in law, I'd love to hear your opinion as well. Juliet is in Shaftesbury in Dorset. What a lovely place. Hello, Juliet.
Yes, it is. Hello. So I was literally talking about this afternoon because I was a managing agent for 25 years. Mm-hmm. And I, was discussing that, the landlord who has the freehold, all costs run, to do with running that building and service charge recoverable. Mm-hmm. But when you end up with a building that's literally through using poor materials, building regs not being followed through properly, all the stuff you were talking about, the share ownership, which I hadn't even taken into account, being encouraged to invest in these properties.
Absolutely.
And as you rightly said, the people who have already had to walk away from their home and become bankrupt as an individual.
Yeah. It's outrageous, isn't it? It's outrageous. Sorry.
It is outrageous. And I thought, right, first of all, in the lease, it normally says that you can challenge costs that are unreasonable. So that's one little tiny avenue. Russell then coined it beautifully. And I would say that a claim, a case, a Class A case, if such a thing exists here, should be taken against the government and pull together all the reasons why it is absolutely ludicrous.
I tell you what my wish is. My wish is that some very important, maybe Robert Jenrick or someone that he knows is actually in one of these flats, or their child is in these flats, or indeed they may be paying for one of these flats. That will make them wake up. Otherwise, I don't know what they'll do, to be honest. You know what they're like. So you think the government should pay?
I think the government and every other, from the people that provided the materials that didn't take the right, opted for the cheaper option.
Can you imagine how long that will take to squeeze the money out of them?
Well,
insurance
as
companies
said, they've got made enough money out of the shared ownership thing. The government can then put the money in and claim it off then subsequently,
It's going to be a bumpy ride, isn't it, as Bette Midler said.
But it needs to be done.
Bette Davis, yes.
It needs to be done because it's grossly unfair and it affects millions.
I agree, Juliet. Sorry, again, I'm rushing. But I just feel that, this is why I'm so loath to do this conversation very much, because it does feel like it's going, well, it's my problem, so I'm going to make a thing about it on the radio. Well, actually, because it's now a parliamentary matter, I think it deserves discussion, and I know that Nick Ferrari feels very strongly about it too. What do you think? Who should pay? 0345 6060 973. Are you in a property that you just can't sell? Are you in danger of actually going bankrupt because of these costs? I'd like to hear from you. Alternatively, I'd like to hear from anyone who thinks that the leaseholders should pay. Why should the taxpayer have to pay, or the insurance? They've done everything legally, they've done everything they were told to do, and yet now they're being told they have to pay for this. Who should pay? It's 6:30.